is another edition of Cool Cars, Interesting People. Today, we're going to speak to Sarah Amies of Lethbridge Family Services, Immigration Services. Talk about lots of things, including the recent Syrians who arrived in Lethbridge. Great story. We'll talk to her about that. But right now, Peter Fuchs from Dunlop Ford. We've got a 2016 Ford Mustang. Last year was the 50th anniversary of the Ford, and this is the 51.
Yeah.
What's new and exciting about the Ford Mustang?
I mean, obviously the 50th anniversary was the big changeover. This particular one's got the California Special Pack. You can see a lot of the black applications, obviously the stickers, you got the hood vents, and then some interior touches we'll take a look at as well.
Yeah, and you gotta love the red, the bright red. Oh man, it just says, I'm better than you.
Nothing gets your attention like race red, right? So this is the GT as well, so it's got the 5-liter V8, 435 horsepower, 400 foot-pounds of torque. So everything you need to go have a nice Sunday afternoon.
Discuss the interior we have here today.
Part of that, the application, obviously with the California Special and it being a GT, it is leather interior. It's got the heated and cooled seats. You've got navigation, push button start. You've got a couple options as far as your different steering modes, your different traction control modes. So anything that you could want this car for, it's good for.
And a lot of power too. It's just, you know, when you drive this thing.
Yeah, I noticed the tires were smoking when you came in, so I hope that didn't affect the value of it at all. But
very good. We're going to go talk to Sarah Amies. You speak any different languages?
Just français.
Français. Ah, merci beaucoup. Au revoir. Je vais chercher du bon vin à la cave maintenant. Hello. Looking for Sarah. Is she Sarah here?
Yes, she's here. And
Sarah,
your name, please?
Mark Campbell.
Sure, one moment, please. Please have a seat.
Really? Yes. Okay, wow. What's comfortable? I don't know how much long I can sit here. Or you can tell her Barack Obama's here. See if that'll come. Yeah.
She'll be here in a few minutes.
A few minutes? Wow. I'm ready.
Actually, just a couple of seconds.
Oh, there it is.
Hi. How you doing, Mark?
Are you Jefferson Starship Sarah or what's his name? The other Sarah from
Darryl
Hall & Oates. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Which
think
one?
I'm that one.
That one.
Yeah.
Sarah Smile.
Scott hates that song.
Oh, does that? Yeah. Hey, we have for you a 2016
Oh, wow.
Ford Mustang.
It's mine? I get to keep it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well,
Just
yeah.
like on the early days of Survivor?
Yeah, that's right. How do you like it? It's red?
It's so cute.
All right.
Yeah.
Here, let me be a gentleman here.
Thank you.
Put this in there for you. There you are.
It's lovely. Wow. Thank you.
I'll just wait until he gets all lined up and ready to go. Put that in there. I couldn't think of Hall & Oates.
Right.
Yes. I was when you go in here and then you got it's a push start.
Oh,
Is yours a push start?
Mine's a 2003. It's not, no.
But
Subaru, that's why it's still running, because it's a Subaru.
Oh, I was trying to find where to start it, and I ended up opening the trunk. These things you got to learn, you know.
This looks kind of vintage, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. And having this, I think it would probably be a really, really good idea, particularly with Mark's driving.
You mean figuring out where we're going?
The camera, the rear view camera. I rather like those.
Very good. Now,
Yes.
if this was like in the 70s and I had a brand new Mustang and you were a single gal and I was a single guy and I drove up in a Mustang, would I be impressing you?
Absolutely.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Are you?
Although I'm not really a car person.
No.
I mean, when people ask me what kind of a car I drive, I say, it's bronze. It's got 4 wheels.
But does it? So
This is really pretty. I know that
nice.
Mustangs have a certain charisma and charm, right? So
And it's a red one too, so you get a lot more tickets. They say.
resale red, they say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I've heard from a car dealer.
So, I mean, would a guy impress you with a vehicle? Though, I mean, does that
Only instantaneously,
Yeah.
and then afterwards he'd have
Then
to
he'd
sort
say,
of prove why I'm being, why I'm being interested. Yeah, exactly. No, let me off at the next corner, right?
Very nice. Now,
Then I would be asking, where did you steal your car from?
yeah, that's now you're from England originally, right?
I am,
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
What part of England? And tell me, and you need to help me with my British accent.
All right, then.
All right. So,
So-
what part are you from originally? Is it-
I'm originally from London,
Oh, what part?
East London actually.
So that's the thicker accent, isn't it?
Well, actually, East London is where the Cockneys come from.
right.
So that's a very, very deep accent. What I speak, I suppose, is called the Oxford English.
Oh, do oh, because
And
that's very,
English.
very
Sort
good.
of middle class, right?
Middle class.
Middle class.
And so, and of course the Cockneys, they're famous for their little riddles, like
Yes.
pebbles
They're
and
rhymes,
squares.
Pebbles
yeah.
and squares,
Or whatever.
and yeah, and they're famous also for those incredible costumes that they would cover
Yes,
with pearly
the pearl-
buttons.
yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, the reason I was born there is because both of my parents were actually studying at the London Hospital,
Oh.
and it was handy.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. So, are you? Are they English? They were English.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, we all came to Canada in 1974. The whole
74.
family.
Oh, okay. The year I started radio,
Is that right?
1974. Yes. My first song
You're
was I've been.
significantly older than I am, then, aren't you, Mark?
My first song was I've Been Searching So Long by Chicago.
Is that real?
Yes, I
I
just
love
remember.
Chicago.
Yes.
I haven't listened to them forever.
I wanted a song that had a long intro,
Right.
so I could talk longer. My first song. Hello, everybody. I'm Black Campbell. I'm here. I'm going to be here for the rest of the night, from midnight till 6 o'clock, and I'm really looking forward to being with you tonight. Here's Chicago. I've been searching so long.
Oh my! you had the night shift.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
What
Midnight,
radio station?
1090 check.
1090 check. Right.
Yeah. Back in those days.
Back in the
Yeah.
day. So many changes in Lethbridge, hey?
There has been.
I mean, we arrived in 1982 into Lethbridge.
82.
Yeah, it was a much, much smaller town, a lot less diverse,
Yes.
a lot less interesting, really. I mean, it was a typical sort of
Western
west-sized
town.
prairie
Yeah.
city, right? And it's well, perhaps it's still typical as Canadian cities become more and more diverse across the country.
Right.
Right.
Right. And so, why did you come here?
Why
I
did we
always
come
like
to?
to-
Why did I come to Lethbridge?
Well, I guess initially Canada. What made you? Your parents? I always like to know the story.
Okay, well, my parents decided that Canada was held a great deal more promise than England at the time.
Yep.
My dad is a physician, and he was hardly making ends meet with the National Health Service going on.
Right.
So he decided that he would come to the land of promise because they were really, really looking desperately for docks and those kinds of things back in the 70s. And we arrived in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan on
Whoa.
October the 15th, 1974.
Really?
Yeah.
Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
Yes. I left fairly quickly. I had to go to high school for a year.
In Moose Jaw.
Yeah, and then right after I graduated, I was gone, and I went to Banff, and then I played on the EI ski team in Banff. Do you know what the EI ski team was?
Employment insurance?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, it
You're a
was
skier.
So much easier. Well, I've been prohibited from doing it anymore because I injure myself.
Oh, yeah.
My husband's a real safety freak, and so
Yes.
he said, no more
Really?
skiing. Yes.
Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty.
Scotty Canisher of the Chevelles.
That's right.
I still want to be the fifth Chevelle. You know that.
Well, Dave DeGroot's the fifth Chevelle. He's Pete Chevelle. But then he's left the country,
Yeah,
so maybe you
so-
could move in to his spot, right?
Damn right. Huh. How do you?
And then as far as coming to Lethbridge, I had been doing some pre-university work at the Grand Prairie College. That's where we ended up. I was also raising Labradors at the time. And I needed to come to a university in Alberta, so there were 3 at the time that I could choose from. And because we were still raising labs and whatnot, they decided for me that it would be easier to live out of town and access the city and the university in Lethbridge than it would be in either Calgary or Edmonton. So
Really?
the dog said, let's go to Lethbridge. And it was a pretty good decision.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that was, and so you, that was in the 80s.
1982 with my
82.
first husband. We had no children at the time.
Yeah, just dogs.
Just the dogs. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had the furry children. three of them. 3 beautiful Labradors.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you still own dogs?
Yeah, but since I no longer enjoy the country life, I've moved into town for a number of different reasons, and so because of that, I decided that raising labs wasn't something that I wanted to do sort of on an ongoing basis, and I can't be without a dog, however, and so then I picked up a couple of Jack Russells back in
Oh, really?
2000, and I still have one left.
Very
Her name
nice.
is Tessie,
Tessie.
but she's on her last leg. She's 15.
Oh my gosh.
So
Well, that was a good
she
run.
kind of creeps around a bit,
Yeah.
but she's an ever such good friend.
Well, here we are at Moxies. I think we need to
Okay.
be in front here
Okay.
because we have a Mustang.
Right.
There we
have
are.
to show everybody.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Make sure you wave as much as a queen would, I would guess. Right? Yes.
They wouldn't expect to see a queen in a Mustang. Maybe a diva.
Madam.
Think so.
Right here. There we are.
Lovely. Ooh, these are high chairs for small people.
That's very good. So, all right. So you've come to Canada.
Yes.
And you're in Lethbridge now. What's the first thing you do? What did you do
What do you mean?
when you got to Lethbridge? What did you do?
Try to find a farmhouse to live in because, of course, I had those 3 dogs that I
Right.
was traveling around with.
Okay.
So for the first 2 or 3 weeks, we stayed actually at Park Place. Not Park Place, Park Lake.
Park Lake. Park Lake. Yeah.
That's right. And we stayed in our camper there, and then the park rangers threw us out because we'd been there for too long and we had 3 dogs.
Yeah.
And then people that we had met who were sort of living in the next trailer spot offered us the use of their backyard. And so we took our trailer over to their backyard and plugged in, and they were in Nobleford. They were really, really nice people, a Dutch couple, and they really helped us out. And that way we had a telephone so that we could go, find out about rentals and those kinds of things. This is in the days way before cell phones, right? This is in the days of, I remember being on the party line in our first place.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, in Lethbridge.
Hello.
Uh-huh. Oh, sorry, it's
hi.
Mrs. Brown.
Good.
Hey,
thanks.
thank you.
Cup of coffee. How do you
Glass
like?
of
Do you
water.
think I'm from England? If I was, what part of England do you think I would be from?
I'm really bad with accents.
Oh.
So
I would
is that even an English accent?
Do you think it's in English?
It could have almost been somewhat Australian.
Or South African?
Right. Well, it was English, if you must know.
It was English.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. Great.
There we are. Anyway.
So yeah, we found our house. We found a little farmhouse, and started living there. And then before I went to university in Lethbridge, I did a number of jobs, service jobs. So I worked at the place,
The place.
The
Yeah.
pit, and then actually, this is interesting. We're at Moxies, right?
This is Moxies,
Remember
yeah.
when this used to be the Oz?
Yes, absolutely.
I used to work here at the
Wow.
Oz, in
That was-
the lounge.
Yeah. What was it? And then there was the sign that said "Gay No Way." Remember that? There was a controversy that.
No,
that they
I
were
don't
saying,
remember that.
They were saying there was a thing that everyone said this is a gay place, so they put a sign up that said "Gay No Way." That's
Oh, okay,
anyway.
yeah, that wasn't.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
very PC by
No,
today's
it was
standards,
not
is it?
at all. No, it was brutal. But anyway, so did you have a plan? Did you have a? Were you thinking forward and what you wanted to be and do?
Not really.
No?
I knew I wanted to go to university. It's kind of an expectation
Yeah.
for me. And initially, I was thinking sociology or recreation and leisure or geriatrics, that sort of thing. And then I decided, I took an anthropology 1000 class and thought, oh, here I am.
This is it.
This is it for me. And continue to get that degree.
And so anthropology kind of helps you with what you're doing now. Lethbridge
Helps me.
Lethbridge Family Services, Immigrant Services. Can you get a longer title?
I know, sorry about that. I'll try and add a few more words to it.
So how do you get? So what is it? The job that you do, and talk about how you got it.
Okay, the job I do currently is I'm the program director, of the Immigrant Services Department of Lethbridge Family Services. And so as the director, I am responsible for about 30 staff. We have 7 or 8 programs that we run, all of which are geared to meeting the needs of newcomers to Canada and to Lethbridge. So we have RAP settlement, which is for the refugees. We have integrated services programs, which is for any newcomer. People can access settlement service for 3 years after they've arrived for free. It's a federally and provincially funded service. We also have a volunteer program so that we can match volunteers up with newcomers. So those volunteers, those mainstream people can assist them, showing them around the city, sharing their social networks, you know, just hanging out with them, practicing English, doing coffee, the Canadian thing. We also have youth services. So we send practitioners, settlement practitioners into schools to basically unpack the mysteries of immigrant kids and their parents and their systems versus the Canadian school system. And so those folks are pretty busy. What else do? We serve temporary foreign workers.
Wow.
And we're just starting a program called Local Immigration Partnerships, which I'm trying to organize at the moment. Plus we have a new position that runs the Syrian refugee project. I had to get more staff on for that because we settled almost 200 Syrians in 2 months.
200 in Lethbridge?
Yeah.
Wow.
Almost 200, not quite.
Well, let's talk about the whole Syrian thing. And well, first off, you made CNN with all of this. That's
I know. Do you know
why?
why?
What was all that about?
Okay, so I got a call from CNN and I was immediately red flag. Oh my goodness, what
Anderson
do you want?
Cooper?
Yeah, right. No, but he actually interviewed my colleague Fair Borjandian in Calgary. So
Anderson Cooper did?
Yes, he was.
Wow.
Yes.
Holy
so
geez.
anyway, the reporter who phoned me was of lesser status, but she's an internet reporter or an online reporter or something, and she just basically looked at the map of Canada and saw where the resettlement centres were across Canada, and Lethbridge is the closest one to the border.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And so she decided she would just hop across the border because it would make even more the point that she was trying to make was her comment was, we are terrified of the Syrians, meaning we in the United States are terrified of the Syrians. You guys don't seem to be. And I want to come up here and just do some filming and show how silly that fear actually is and how incredibly win-win that can be as we settle folks who are desperately in need of some help and who are going to be active, engaged citizens pretty soon and who will be giving it back to society in spades.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she came up and did some filming and pretty good little piece.
Yeah.
There was also a Facebook page run by one of the privately sponsored groups. We've had maybe 35 individuals who've been privately sponsored into Lethbridge, and those groups are popping up all over the place right now. And so she did some filming with them, but she also she found out where we were as well and who we were by the Facebook page. And in actual fact, that Facebook page has now been taken down because there were so many media requests from all over the place based on this Facebook page. Oh my gosh, you're taking in 25,000 Syrians. Well, no, Lethbridge is not taking 25,000. We'll take our share. But yeah, I was in Ottawa a couple of weeks ago and John McCullum addressed us, the Minister of IRCC, and he said that we got 26,000 people in just under 100 days.
Which, that's unbelievable, is it?
It's unprecedented for virtually any country. In terms of being planned and organized, right, that planned movement. I mean, masses of people have been moving into various countries in Europe, but they haven't been invited and the border folks aren't ready for them or prepared or even willing. So in terms of it being a reasonably organized operation, unprecedented. Yeah. And it certainly put Canada on the map in terms of its humanitarian tradition.
Take me through the emotions that you would go through. I mean, at one point you probably have to be very pragmatic and say, here's how we're going to do it. But at the other end, there's the emotional toll of these people coming into they're displaced. And that must be trying for you to see what they've been going through at the same time. So take us through
what we do, I always, my philosophy really is to focus on the successes and the strengths of these people and the resiliencies of these people, less than focusing on the weaknesses and challenges. Obviously they're there, but if you focus on the resiliencies, you then let people know that they've done so well thus far and they can continue to do this well. And in the meantime, what we're going to do is provide all kinds of programming and services to support you through your settlement journey until you're fully active and engaged in society. So in terms of emotions, to hear some of those stories almost brought me to tears. I mean, you know, mums with 5 or 6 or 7 children having to stand in line in airports for 7 hours in order to get on an airplane and being terrified to move and having to actually sleep in the line up on the floor. And one fellow got off the airplane in Canada, in Lethbridge, and his first question to me was, is this it? or do I have to fly somewhere else? He had no idea where in the world he was at that point.
Yeah.
And it was so nice to be able to say, yeah, welcome home. Let me take you to a nice clean bed,
Right.
a shower, you guys can relax, and we'll see you tomorrow.
So what about the, wait a minute, this is, what, Lethbridge? What is Lethbridge?
I know.
So what's their, what kind of impressions are they giving you, or what's their thoughts? Or
Actually, they're really
noticing?
appreciative of Lethbridge. Initially, I mean, it's the peace and the quiet and the calm.
Yeah.
They can walk outside without being molested day or night. Their children, they're pretty much guaranteed, like the rest of us, that children are going to be able to walk to school and back, again, without being molested.
Yeah.
So there's that feeling of security and that feeling of, oh my gosh, I can relax a little bit. And once that relaxation happens, however, a lot of other stuff will start to surface. Post-traumatic stress disorder and,
So
and those kinds of...
These things are still to come.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And we're
Yeah.
seeing some signs in some of the kids at school, you know, some violent behaviors or inappropriate behaviors for Canadian society. And so there's a fair amount of work to do. It's not because they're bad, it's just that they don't know, and they're acting out some of the trauma. And that's not surprising at all. And so we've been really aware of that and being proactive with respect to the school district about those kinds of things.
And how frustrating is it for you to see, and I know you've seen it all, the ignorance of what you're dealing with,
Yeah.
why you're dealing with it, the religious side of it, the Muslim side of
Oh,
it.
I know, right?
You were bringing in terrorists, you didn't vet them properly, all these negative things. Take us through
What does that basically...
Okay,
no,
sure,
I'm
thanks.
fine, thanks.
Thank
That
you very
basically tells me that people are not yet informed
Right.
enough. And so it is my job to ensure that that information gets out and it is correct and it is given in a respectful fashion, because really some of that angst and anger towards Muslims and Syrians and whatnot is in a place of fear and a place of ignorance, not knowing. Not being stupid, but just not knowing. And so the agency is very, very invested in making sure that folks out in Lethbridge understand why these people deserve a second chance at life and how incredibly important it is for Canada to bring in 25,000 reasonably young people. We have an aging workforce and a declining population, and very soon we're going to, well, we really need immigration to come in and support the baby boomers as they start to retire. We're an enormous number of people, and I see this as a complete win-win. A lot of the Syrian families are really big. 65% of the Syrians in total are under the age of 18.
Wow.
So they're going to Canadian schools, they're getting that integration through their childhood. By the time they reach high school and graduate, many of them will be so fully integrated and feel so included in Lethbridge. They will go on to achieve at school and university and college and get good jobs and continue to inform the economy and that sort of thing.
And of course, it doesn't help that a man who could be the president of the United
good
States
grief.
is suggesting that perhaps we shouldn't bring in, you know.
I know.
What is
God, I mean, all I can say there is let's hope saner minds prevail eventually.
Yeah. I mean, could it be that he's saying these outrageous things just to make a point, just to get out there?
Is it just a marketing thing?
That's what I want.
Right?
You know,
I don't know. Who knows?
Because he's now saying, well, it's just a suggestion. You know, so.
Also,
but
it's backing off a little bit because I think there are saner minds out there, regardless of Democrat or Republican, right? And the saner minds in the Republican Party are saying, actually, these are not our tenants.
Right.
You are creating your own tenants, and you are disenfranchising a lot of people who could be potentially voting for us.
Right.
So we're seeing that schism there, I feel. Let's see how it plays out, but I'm really, really keeping my fingers crossed for the Democrats.
Do you have any fear that the Syrians that are in Lethbridge have any kind of ties to any kind of terrorism?
No.
None whatsoever?
I mean, how can I say?
Yeah.
I don't know all of the details of everybody's life, etc. However, the feeling I get is that there are young families coming in desperate for peace, desperate to get their kids back into school, desperate for some healthcare services. Some of them haven't had any healthcare or dental care or anything since they were chased out of Syria.
Right.
These folks are running away from ISIS. They are not planning to join ISIS.
Yeah, right.
They are also running away from Bashir's government. And so there's a certain amount of fear amongst the population here in Lethbridge, the Syrian population, that if too much of their information gets out onto the internet, for instance, some of their family members in Syria could be compromised as a result of that information.
Yeah.
So they're running. They are looking for peace and quiet. And the thing is, what we need to do is keep those kids connected and keep them doing useful activity throughout their adolescence so that they don't become disenfranchised here in Canada and start to think, oh, maybe what's going on overseas and at home is better than here in Canada. So it's up to us as a society, having brought them in, invited them in and told them we're happy to have them, please settle and become Canadians. It's up to us to keep them engaged, to continue this work throughout several generations.
What do you think of when you see these homegrown terrorists that some come from Syria, some come from other countries, they move into England or France or Belgium, and
some of them are raised in England, France, and Belgium.
And they become so disenfranchised.
They're so disenfranchised.
How did, in your estimation, why does that happen?
Because the economy is poor in some of those countries, because as well, in Europe, immigration has not been properly handled.
Really? Yeah.
No, and I mean, Germany opened its arms to almost 1 million people with very little planning. How do you settle 1 million people without having any plans in place, right? So can you imagine how desperately angry mainstreamers in those communities and countries must feel? It's like, good grief, there's so much competition as it is for resources, and now you brought another 1 million people in. How am I going to feed my children? I am a citizen of this country. So it's that kind of pressure and those kinds of factions and fights that go on internally that create the disenfranchised populations. That's not the case here at all. And as I say, it's up to us to keep connected and to ensure that these kids, particularly, mum and dads, I don't think we're going to have too much trouble with. They're too busy looking after their kids and learning English, trying to find jobs so that they can support these kids. It's the kids who are moving in through the process right now that we need to ensure through middle school, through high school, that they are connected, mentored, treated well, treated just like any other mainstream kids, taught about their resiliencies again, as I say, talk about their strengths, leverage the strengths. Like in high school, for instance, why don't you get the kids standing up and say, this is my country, and guess how many languages I speak, folks? 5. Whereas, many Canadians only speak 1. A couple who have gone to French immersion speak more than. And, so many immigrants are bringing in so many language skills that we have, we can't really even fathom. And so why don't we leverage those skills and do those sorts of things to just capitalize on, it's human capital, certainly, but why not? It's an opportunity. It's not something that we're going to do to compromise safety or dignity or human rights in any way, but certainly this is an opportunity for us that I see building incredible advantages for future.
So you're feeling pretty good about the way things have gone so far?
Fantastic. I am.
And what about now, you don't only deal with the Syrians, but you Bhutanese.
We're expecting an Afghan family in the next couple of months. That goes back 10 years.
Wow.
We haven't seen Afghans for about that long.
Wow.
So when I first started, I think it was Afghans. We were welcoming Afghans, Iraqis and Iranians, and that was after the war in the 90s between the Iraqis and Iranians. There were also the Kosovar faction.
Wow.
And there was a huge airlift, remember?
Yes.
When all of the Kosovars came in, I think we took 45 families that year. I was not yet in the business of settlement, so this is just history. After Kosovar and Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan, then Kurdish people started to come in. They're stateless as well. Then it was the Somali and the Sudanese.
Wow.
South Sudan. Sudan.
Gosh, it's
almost the best job ever, Mark. My geography is so good. Ask me anything about the world map, right? And then after those folks, the Bhutanese. And we've been working with the Bhutanese almost to a man, woman, and child now since about 2009.
Wow.
It was supposed to be a 3-year operation, but it's been going on since 2009. And we have actually successfully settled over 1,000 people in Lethbridge. So Lethbridge is now home to the largest Bhutanese community in Canada, which I love. It just jazzes me completely. And we see the Bhutanese, the kids are going to university, and we see them getting great jobs, and I see them in the community as peers and colleagues as opposed to people I used to serve as clients.
Right.
And that to me is the success.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting
stuff.
It is. Yeah.
And seeing babies being born. I was recently invited, like just about a month ago, I was invited to an Afghan baby shower.
Wow.
And I noticed how incredibly large the Afghan community is getting here. Lots and lots of people are coming in. It was for women only because that's how the Afghans kind of operate in terms of socialization. But there were so many little ones, so many babies. It was wonderful. The community is growing. Obviously, they feel welcomed and they're settled here and they're happy.
I imagine there's some that need or want to get back to their homeland.
Of course they do.
You know?
That would be the most optimum solution, wouldn't it? That would be repatriation into your own country, back home. Of course, everybody wants to go back home to the way life was before the Troubles.
But sometimes
often home is no longer there.
Yeah.
I mean, good grief, look at Syria.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you could go back to Aleppo or Damascus, but what are you going to live in?
Yeah.
Everything has been completely bombed and scrapped. So there's nothing to go back to. So that's so sad for these people.
Yeah.
The life that they knew, the life they were perfectly happy in, has gone. There isn't an option.
Do you find yourself getting kind of overwhelmed emotionally with your job? Just hearing all of the stories, do you you go home, do you have to decompress it all?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what do you do for fun? Other than go watch the Chevelles.
Well, I was going to say, I'm one of the main groupies, one of the older groupies, I guess. But I mean, I'm a Mrs. Chevelle, one of four in the world, right?
Let me hear the Mrs. Chevelle side of the story.
The Mrs. Chevelle
because
side
the
of the
Chevelles, for people who don't know, they've been around for 15 years.
They're Lethbridge's house band.
They're 15 years, I think, isn't it? And they've been going all over Canada with the curling thing.
Oh, I know, it's great.
Booked every weekend, so that is their life. They have other jobs.
Yep, they all have day jobs.
What about the Mrs. Chevelle side of it?
Well, the Mrs. Chevelle goes along once in a while.
Yeah.
Went on a road trip once. Don't have to repeat that experience again. Went to Saskatchewan, to East End for the 100th anniversary, and so that was fun. I needed to go, right, just to see what happened.
Right,
Not much. Yeah. Actually, it's pretty boring. Sitting in the Winnebago, traveling around the country. But I mean, Scott's gone generally Fridays and Saturdays.
Scott, your husband?
Yeah, Scott, my husband.
Yeah.
And so that, in concert too with my former life and with my former husband, who was a pipeliner, who was always gone. I'm actually quite used to being single, individual, if you will. I have built. My parents were not in the country when we first moved to Lethbridge. They were living in Australia, and then started having babies, and no grandmas and grandpas around. And so basically, Dennis, the guy and the kid's dad, and I created our own community, and we are still incredibly close with the people with whom we raised all of our children. We all went on camping trips together, potluck suppers, sleepovers. The village raised all of the children, and that was just such a wonderful thing. And so I still hang out with all of those people.
And that's what you're doing now in your job. You're raising villages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another thing I do for fun is I have a wonderful garden, and that's one of my favorite things.
Well, you're English. You have to do that.
Exactly. I do grow some veggies, and Scott built me a greenhouse last year, so that's fantastic.
Very nice.
I'm having lots of fun in the greenhouse. I also have a dog, a little doggy.
Yep.
And when I'm in the garden with Tessie the dog and the flowers and the veggies, I'm in my zen place.
You are away from it all.
I am so happy there and grateful for the life I have. I also have two amazing kids that I hang out with all the time. They're now grown-ups and incredible. I'm so proud of them and their accomplishments. And one of them has produced for me a grandson.
Oh, wow.
Who is also a ginger, just like his nana. And I spend as much time with that little man as I possibly can. He is wonderful. What a tonic to hang out with a 6-year-old, right?
Okay, best rock and roll road show that you've ever seen, concert?
I think it had to be David Bowie in Calgary a number of years ago.
Oh, wow.
I saw Bowie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Which tour? Do you remember?
I can't remember that. Macy Gray opened up for him, which was
Wow.
very cool because
Yeah.
I really enjoy her music as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've seen Rod Stewart. Scott took me, actually, bucket list. Van Morrison.
Oh, really?
My absolute favorite performer in the world.
Really? I've heard he's a dork.
Not a very pleasant gentleman.
Yeah.
No, he's not. But he's a genius when
Yeah.
it comes to poetry and musical and songwriting.
Right.
He is genius.
Right.
And so I really cut my teeth on that. And
Yeah.
actually, it's funny because my kids come up to me and say, "Oh, Mom, listening to Van Morrison because, of course I'm listening to Van Morrison.
Yeah.
I was force-fed Van Morrison all my life." Who else have we seen?
You, my red-haired girl.
That's right. Yeah, Scott sings that song to me.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he does. Saw Billy Joel,
Billy Joel.
in Calgary, Rod
Yep.
Stewart. Bob Dylan, a couple of times. Saw him at the end match.
What did you think,
right?
Bob?
Well, we were sitting on the wrong side of the arena because all we could see was his back because he was standing playing his piano and he didn't move around very much. And he sounds awful.
Yeah.
I'm glad to say, right? Of course he does.
Yeah. It's either you love him because of who he is.
Well, again,
or
it's the
you,
poetry.
yeah.
It's the movement that he
Yeah.
stood for. I mean, he's one of the original folk artists,
Yeah.
right?
But as far as sitting 2 hours in a concert, was it fulfilling?
Not really.
No.
I was there with Tim Carter though and Scott Kanashiro, and so
Yeah.
we were having our own fun, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Good.
Yeah.
No. So what do you see as the future for you and your position and what you're doing, and what are you going to do moving forward in your life?
Well, I know that the Immigrant Services Department is not going to be in the location that it is currently for very much longer.
Okay.
Next year we're moving over to where Lethbridge Family Services main office is, on the north side on 2nd Ave. There's a large C-can, but huge, big storage space, I guess. I call it a big tin box. I probably shouldn't. That will become our future home. There's going to be some renos, obviously, and they're going to attach it to the main office somehow, and so my department will move in there as well. My department is growing and growing. I just hired 9 people.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I increased the department by probably 30% over
Yeah.
the last couple of months. So that's getting to be challenging, certainly, but there are so many people coming into town that need that kind of assistance. So it's really great. I mean, settlement is a pretty secure sector right now, and I'm so glad at that. Obviously, I won't do it forever. Maybe I'll consult. But I'm not going anywhere unless my boss tells me I have to leave. I'm not going anywhere for a while, I don't
very
think.
good.
I'm really enjoying this. I'm really hitting my stride after 16 years.
And maybe the next phone call will be from Anderson Cooper.
Might be. Although I did get to shake McCullum's hand, and I'm on Facebook standing next to Mr. McCullum, Minister McCullum.
Very nice.
Yes.
I'd still rather have Anderson Cooper.
I was hoping Mr. Trudeau would be there because we were in Ottawa, but we missed him.
As Daryl Hall and John Oates would say, Sarah, smile. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you. Cheers.
It's been so much fun.
Great. Thanks.